Hi there, I am now recording here on Zoom. I am Jolie Johansson from Warriorsheart.dk. So yes, I said Jolie the French way because I'm a numerologist. This video today is going to be about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which I used to suffer from. But let's go forward a little bit back because I just listened to a audio on Audible, which is called, let me show you what the name of it is. It's called it's called the 3-day effect, where these scientists are taking people into the forest in order to prove the healing and calming and the soothing effect that PTSD has on both you and I, our nervous system, but also when we have PTSD. I do not have PTSD anymore, but I have been 10 years in the Danish Army as a Lance Corporal. And what I thought about a couple of minutes ago, or what dawned upon me, was the fact that when I was in the Army, I had a boyfriend at one time. And I remember that he had just been deployed to Kosovo, and he was just a mechanic, which meant he wasn't out at the front fighting as a warrior soldier, luckily, but he was a mechanic sitting there in this big container every day, fixing the cars and the trucks, hearing the missiles going above the container. And of course, he developed PTSD as well as so many other soldiers did. But the thing is, when I was sitting with this guy, as his girlfriend, he told me a story about a time where he almost threw his last girlfriend out of the window. And I remember sitting there going, As time went by, we didn't date more than a couple of months. I remember saying to this guy called Christian, are you getting help with what you experienced in Kosovo? No, I do not need any help, he said. And his temper got shorter. And one day he told me about the place that we were both in there as a soldier. He told that he took a screw and he had just thrown it through the Exelon, which we call the place where you do all the mechanical stuff in the Army. And I was like, oh my God. And again, I said, don't you think you should need some help managing your emotions or your lack of patience? And the interesting part was I was in it, and I registered that something was wrong. The incident where he almost threw his girlfriend out of the window. But you must know also and respect me for the fact that when I was a child, I grew up in a very, very violent domestic home. My dad physically beat us all up. He sexually abused my sister. I was abused by the neighbor's kid. There was critique, and it was a harsh environment for me to grow up in. So me being at that time with a healthy, steady boyfriend was not even in the picture because I settled with what I could get. Does that make sense? So also, let me just make a little jump, a shift again, because so many women complain about the narcissist, the sociopath, the sociopath, narcissist, and sociopath. What's the last one? Yeah, you know the last one. It's because I'm Danish and I can't translate it. So there are these three different types of men, and we women keep complaining about these men. But the matter of fact is that women who is and have a tendency of being a victim, narcissists will pull and be drawn towards them, because what a narcissist does is that cover up is the next layer of being submissive and a victim. And I used to be a victim too. Let me just close some of my internet on all the other phones so that one there with you doesn't get unstable. So was this guy a narcissist that I was with, this guy Christian? No, he wasn't, but he did get PTSD when he was sent abroad. It's just that, so we stopped blaming each other. I don't like that tendency we have within the whole holistic industry and women and men in general. Men do this, women do that, because you have your shit, I have my shit. Let's not blame one another. So back to Christian. At one point, I was gonna go to Christian and break up with him. So I went there to pick up my boxing helmet, my boxing gear, because I boxed at the time with the national team. And I even called a common friend of Christian, and I called Lars. And I called him up and I said, Lars, I'm going to pick up my clothes and stuff at Christian. Would you please come? Because I know that something is completely off. And you might not know it, but I'm actually born a psychic. I've had these abilities my whole life. Oh my God. And sometimes I wish I was able to shut them off. I can today. So I called him and I said, please come and help. And he said, no, Christian is fine. There's nothing wrong with him. And I just knew it. So when I got to Christian's place, he was sitting up in his window at the first floor, and he was sitting there smoking a cigarette. And I remember him taking the cigarette, throwing it after me, looking at me with the most dark eyes that were filled with hatred. I didn't see his soul, his personality. He was just wrong, because he also knew, as I did, that I was going to break up with him. And he lived quite up high, about 2 meters up. So he jumped from that window. He was sitting there with his feet hanging from the apartment, and he went to the ground, and he had thrown all my things out, my expensive boxing gloves, my helmet. And I remember him coming over to me, pulling me, taking me, throwing me to the ground, doing like that with his hand. It was the other hand, but I'm left-handed, as you can see. And he was holding me there. And I remember looking up to him, looking in his eyes, seeing, I'm going to kill you. And I felt it. I'm going to die. And I just looked right through him. And then it dawned upon him what he was doing. But at the same time, I had screamed out so loud, what are you doing? Help! I scream out loud. And I don't remember what happened from there, except that he left and I got up and I called the police. And do you know what the police said? You know, I can fight myself. So I think I somehow pushed him away. I called up the police, and do you know what they said? We can't help you. As long as he's a boyfriend, someone you know, and it's not a stranger, we can't come. I got so furious and I was shaking. So what I actually did was that I called up the military psychic ward, and I got him in there. They came and they picked him up, and that was it. And the story, that was it. I don't think the army even did anything. I just told some of my friends what he had done, and the point to that story is that I got PTSD also from that. I had a PTSD in my system, but it was not completely full-blown because of my childhood with gun shooting and stuff like that. And then there was this accident with Christian who tried to kill me. Then in 1999, I was attacked in Nørrebro in Copenhagen. Something was triggered in my nervous system at that time as well. 3 times I had crashed on my motorcycle as well. But also the fact that I was 10 years in the Danish army and always had to go like this. I always had to protect myself, being afraid of the next attack, the next invitation coming from a chief sergeant or an officer. And when I turned them down, oh my God, turning a man down is not a good thing. when it's an unhealthy, unstable man, because the healthy masculine can easily take, I'm not interested, no thank you. And it's not appropriate for a high officer to invite me out, a guy I don't even know that I just talked to for 10 minutes. I remember that many times that men invited me out, and when I said no thank you, they took it so personal. And after that, they would take all their colleagues and turn them towards me. They would give me a bad review on my papers. So it was 10 years of me having to make myself even more tough than I already was at that time because of my childhood. So after I left the army in 2005, it took me 10 years to become a human being again, to become a woman, to become feminine, to take off all my guards and all my barriers. And I had chronic pain for many years after that. And not until that I took the last shred of PTSD out of my system, did also with the help of Egoscue, developed for Navy SEALs, which I still do today. Egoscue is developed by Pete Egoscue, who trained the Navy SEALs to help them have less physical injuries. And I just had one session through Skype many years ago, which helped me. If you see, this is how my elbow look, and this is how my knees look as well. I have had everything broken and have had many fractures on my body. So PTSD is not just related to traumas, accidents, wars. We can all have it to a different degree. A friend of mine the other day, she said so arrogantly, I have PTSD as well. And I said, can we just talk about my past? Does it have to be about you? And I did say to her a couple of days later, you have PTSD, but only to a degree of 3 to 4 when I look at you intuitively. But the thing is, many people have stress. Do you know what stress calls in? Stress is what calls in autoimmune system, autoimmune illnesses, and eventually cancer. So you can't cure the cancer if you don't cure the root, which is stress. But what is behind the root? What's below stress? Childhood traumas, childhood neglect, childhood abandonment, childhood stress, overstimulation of our nervous system. In 2005, here, the 31st of August, so 31st of August 2005, I was going on my motorcycle. I had just left the army. I had signed up for a body educational therapy school. I was on my way to sell my motorcycle. I'm just gonna take something to drink here first. 1 second. I had realized with myself at that time that my whole life had been a charade. I had tried to be and my whole life at that time, I was 28 years, it's 15 years ago today. For 28 years, I had been playing a charade. I was trying to be this G.I. Jane, fighting for my dad's attention, who passed away when I was 9. Luckily, my dad died when I was 9. It's a long story. I might tell you later on in this video, which I'm just going by instinct. I didn't make a script. I was about to interview someone today and he canceled, and that's fine. So in 2005, I realized that I'm constantly trying to impress my dad, but there's no one there to impress. I didn't even realize it back then because I was so far away from myself that I had to accept myself. I was constantly chasing being accepted. Compliments was never my thing, but reassurance, being accepted, getting to know that I was good enough. So in 2005, I was standing there completely open and naked, realizing, oh my fucking God, my whole life is a charade. I'm trying to play this G.I. Jane, boxing with the national team, going on the fastest motorcycle, being in the army, and I was burned out. So I went to sell my motorcycle to get the money to pay for my body therapy educational school. And I told you that I'm a psychic. And at one point that year, I had seen myself in a hospital bed, lying by the window. So I knew it was about time that I ended that whole charade, stopped boxing, stopped the army, ended in the army, and stopped driving my motorcycle. So on I think it was a Wednesday morning or a Monday morning, I took my motorcycle and I went up from where I lived in Peru to go down to Herfølge and sell the motorcycle. And at one point, there was this tractor who drew out, who went out on the street that I was going on. But then the other tractor, his old colleague, an old man, he went out as well. But he couldn't because I was coming. So I honked my little horn because a motorcycle doesn't sound very, very high. And I remember him going into the side immediately because he knew he shouldn't have turned out to the road. And I looked past the other tractor and no one was there, all was fine. And I started going by him. I started to go by this young man, which name was Lasse, 16 years old. So I'm out here next to the tractor. Well, I'm not even next to it, he's over here. And then I remember he started turning. He started turning. And I remember opening my mouth. I get all emotional. I opened my mouth in my helmet going, I'm gonna die. The light is gonna turn off. At that point, I hit him and everything went black. I knew, I said to myself, the light is gonna go off. I'm not gonna see the light ever again. Like that. I was up somewhere, I don't know where, but today I do. And there I saw my whole life flashing fast forward. A DS show. I saw how I was neglected and abused as a child. I saw that I didn't get any love and affection, me constantly running out there chasing my dad's affection, trying to get my mom to see me who didn't care about me, trying to get the love from my siblings who didn't like me because I was their half sister with my half brother. It was so complicated. But also me realizing that this was my 7th near-death accident. This was the last chance I had to come back to be me. It was the last chance because that was not the first time I faced death. When Christian tried to kill me, when I was born, I died. Motorcycle accident. I was in the Gladiators in 2003 and fell to the bare ground from 3 meters above. And for a long time, I didn't want to live because my life had been so rough and so lonely. So I was this place that seemed like a cinema. I was sitting there and the big screen would just show my whole life within seconds. And I remember thinking eventually, I get it. This is the last chance for me to get back here and to become me, to be the woman that I am, and to come and be me. And I did not know at that time what that meant, because today I'm a psychic, I'm a shaman, I'm an alchemist. I've created my own healing technique, new aura adjustment. I've created this whole setup, which I have taught others in for 15 years. But I remember with that specific sentence, I get it now. Fuck. And that's when I came back to life. And everything hurt. 15 years ago, on this day, The 31st of August 2005, I had my last chance to become me. I had, at that time, arthritis. I had loads of allergies. I was tired. I didn't want to live. I had food intolerances, and I wasn't happy, and I didn't want to live, and I was struggling with myself and everyone the whole time. I didn't have a family to connect with. And I remember from being up there to getting down here again in the environment, in the accident, like that pain I will never forget. I was thrown around in the air, and when I finally opened my eyes, here, this big, that was a tractor's wheel. Here was the engine, right here. And I was stuck there between the tire and the engine. And the driver, Lasse, was sitting up there, 16 years old. And everything hurt. I remember I did this. And I yelled, "What the fuck are you doing? You did not even activate your stop light. You didn't activate your blink light turning to the left. You didn't turn your head. You didn't do nothing. Are you completely insane?" And he said, I know, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you. And at that time, he had run down from where the tractor had its cockpit. And I remember he went up there again, and he opened this distance between the wheel and the engine, opened the axles, as we would say in Denmark, and I fell to the ground. And I will never ever forget that pain. It hurt so much. I couldn't touch my leg. That arm was completely, it has had 3 fractures. That arm was completely something weird. My pelvis had fractured 2 places. My left knee had been ripped apart in many places. My belly was completely blue, and my right ankle was this big because it had hit the tractor engine and had been burned. I have had the tractor underneath my feet, so I couldn't stand on my feet. And I remember coming to the hospital going like, why am I here? Can't you just send me home? Because I didn't want to be there in that painful body. And I also remember being so sensitive. My spiritual journey at that time had begun. I remember saying to my friends, you cannot come to me with any sugar. You can only bring me fruit, because I will not numb all this pain. And I also told my healing friends to come. And the first night I received Reiki healing, and the second night, but already at the first night, I didn't take any pills. No sleeping pills, no painkillers. I didn't want them. And all the pain went away. And I remember a couple of months later when I had the surgery in my right arm, I also had Reiki healing 2 times from an old Reiki master of mine, an old friend called Bruno. And the pain went away because of, despite all the surgery that I had been through. I signed myself out of the hospital way too early, months before I should, because I had to start what I had signed up for, the body therapy education. So when I was sitting there in the wheelchair in my home in Peru, in Chile, I realized with myself that I couldn't walk. And I had my arm in a cast for the second time. The first time was that one in 2003, and now it was there again, a big cast. And as you might see, that looks weird. And I had a DonJoy on both my knees until I was going to go through the surgery. And I remember I can't walk, but perhaps I can bike. So I went into the shed, took out my bike, and with the crunches in the healthy hand and my backpack on the back, and with the arm in a cast and 2 legs in a DonJoy, I got up on the bike, going like that, you know. I couldn't go all the way, but I did the best that I could. 6 kilometers up to the station, the elevator up into the train, An hour into Copenhagen, I climbed up the stairs eating licorice to make sure I didn't have to pee in the break. And I was sitting there studying physiology and anatomy, and in the weekends I went there as well. And I couldn't walk, so I was just, the first month or two, I was just sitting there observing all my classmates. And I knew I had to be there at that time to teach how to heal myself and do gymnastics that would help me gain my physical strength again. And I also remembering that the physiotherapist at the hospital wasn't good enough, so I had to train myself because they were training me as I had only lost one ligament, but I had lost several ligaments in the other knee. And I remember saying to them, you can't give me that exercise because that's for the other ligament, which I had already torn a couple of years ago in 1999 when I was attacked at Nørrebro. Well, to sum it all up, do you think I was traumatized? I was, and I had severe PTSD. But I do not believe that PTSD is an illness. I think it's overload, constantly abusing ourselves, our own limits. And I do not believe that accidents come alone. But up until the fact that Christian attacked me, I was always in a higher state of alert. So I looked like that as a boxer, but that was also my being and doing and feeling. I was constantly on alert. When would my family criticize me? When would someone make me wrong? Were there anyone I could trust? I didn't trust anyone, not even myself. So I was always trying to survive, trying to prove my worth, trying to seek love at the wrong places, which was outside of myself. And I remember also in 2007, which is 13 years ago, I was sitting there doing my inner work. Let me just go back a little. At one point, I went up to the north of the island where I live now, called Sjælland. I isolated myself in the darkness in a summer house residence. There was no light because it was so dark out there. But I knew one thing. I had to retreat into nature to recover from my PTSD, which I knew I had at that time. I couldn't cope with other people, with noises. I couldn't be amongst other people, but I did take clients. And I remember going to my mentor saying, why is it that everything I do for myself, the shamanistic tools and healing techniques, the inner child therapy techniques, when I come and visit you, when I upgrade my aura, why is it that none of it works? And I remember him saying, well, I'll refer you to something called radio-NI, which is radiology. I can't transfer it into English, but it's radio-NI, which is frequency treatment. It says, beep, 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 beep. So it's frequency treatment. So when I went to Australia or to Maui and I had sinus problems or illnesses or infections in my lymphatic system because I had been traveling and had been exposed to air condition, I would call Torben and Deanna and say, can I get your help with these issues? And they would go away within 30 minutes. So that was the first step for me to calm my system and get a battery up my butt to help me regenerate. Because when you're burned out and you got PTSD, you are lacking energy. You're not even just lacking energy, you're being drained all the time because it's like pop, how do you say that? Because you're lacking energy. The energy is you can't contain the energy because you have been overstimulated. And you have to decharge yourself from the stress, from the traumas, from the bad experiences. So for more than 10 years, every day, I was lying there working on myself, doing inner work and energy work, healing on my traumas, my fear, my abandonment, my neglect, my insecurities, me not wanting to live here, feeling unloved, unworthy, unsafe, etc. And when I was up there isolated in the north of Sjælland, I remember how good it was for me to sit in the garden and do nothing, to go to the ocean and just sit there and do nothing. So what I did at that time is that I made a big poster on the wall where I would write what makes me happy, because I knew I had to find a new way of being me, because I couldn't train. I did start running again. I did go ski training. The doctor said, you're never going to go ski again. You're never going to be able to stretch this arm. You're never going to be able to overstretch your knees. You're never going to go running, skiing, boxing, doing martial arts. And of course, I can do it all today. But I knew that I couldn't find comfort or numb myself with harsh training that I used to, because it would just reactivate my PTSD. So also remember that if you got stress, severe stress, PTSD and severe PTSD, you shouldn't exercise. You can only do soft and gentle exercise that doesn't drain you from energy, and it has to be something that's soft and gentle and will make you happy, because you don't have the energy. Your nervous system is in a high alert. So if you go running, your brain goes, oh, there is a war going on. And we have to tell our system that there's a peace here. So that's why I isolated myself out there and became a recluse, because I had to tell my brain that there's no one around me to criticize me, to harm me, to make me wrong, to abandon me, or to reject me, or attack me like Christian did. So you should see your stress as an accident. That we always say when we're being taught first aid, stop the accident. So whenever a client is calling me up and say, how do I lose weight? How do I find a new job? How do I get better? How do I get there? And I have to pull them all the way back and say, and remind them to stop the accident, stop the stress. You have to cure and heal yourself for the stress first, which also requires going back at the other side of the stress, going below the stress. Here's the stress. On top of the stress is being very influenced by critique. It's not sleeping well, it's having a low tolerance, it's being extremely hungry, not able to lose weight. It's feeling too much, seeing too much, hearing too much, being on a constant alert like that. Not liking, feeling frightened when other people is looking at you. You don't like to be watched through the shoulder, and you're constantly being on alert. That's stress, but it's also PTSD. It depends on where you are. I lost where I came from, so I'm just going to drink some more. When I was up there in the north of Sjælland and I didn't want to live anymore. Oh, sorry. So all these symptoms are symptoms of stress. And below the stress, this is the symptoms and here's the stress. Below the stress, there's insecurity. And there's fears. There's neglect, abandonment. And sometimes above them is traumas. It's kind of like a piece of a dart chart. Out here is all the behavioral patterns, the survival instincts. When you get closer, there's the root cause. In the middle of the dart chart is what triggered your PTSD. You don't want to know mine? When my mom was pregnant with me in her belly, she didn't protect me when my dad beat her up. How could she? She was just a tiny woman. But she didn't stand up for me. She didn't pull away from him. He was the psychopath, and she was the victim. But towards me and my siblings, she was a martyr, always criticizing us, making us wrong, putting us down. So that was my first trauma. Then I came out into the world and I died because I didn't want to get out. Then I had two older siblings that didn't want me there because I was the half sibling. I had a mom who wanted a boy. I had a dad who raised me as a boy, even though he liked that I was a girl because his first was a son. And there I was in this violently home. Everyone was abused, and when they were abused, I was abused. But I was beaten as well, not as much as my siblings, because I learned how to adapt to my dad's mood. At the age of 9, the day that my dad died and tried to kill my whole family and threw me out of the house because I was his favorite, that day, when he had died, and the police had been there, and there was gun shooting, there was holes in our whole house, and blood on the wall, and gas had been shot into the home by the police. My dad had been taken away, my mom, my brother, my sister was there. Blood everywhere. I was like 9 years old. Now we don't have to fear for our lives. Now we can live. But at that time, I was left on my own. At the age of 2, I realized with myself, there's no mom there to protect me or love me. So I was running behind my dad, this violently abusive, emotional, physical, mentally unstable man. I learned it was either pest or cholera. Who would I choose? A mom who didn't care about me or wasn't interested in me. A father who would punish me, ignore me, or not just be there, or even beat me up. So I went into life and I never felt safe. Luckily, it's not long ago that I had Dr. Gary Salier help me reprogram the last part of my brain. So I know life can be harsh. I have been harsh. I have been one of these negative, skeptic, harsh, bitter, arrogant, bullying women who hated myself and therefore hated other women and other men. I have been the woman that I'm helping men to stay away from. I have been the woman that I'm today telling other people to stay away from because they're toxic, because I was toxic too. But why was I toxic? I just taught you and showed you and told you. I was toxic because that's what I grew up in. No one is born an evil child. No one is born toxic or full of insecurity or hate. We're born as these pure little divine beings. And my whole life, I have been connected to the divine, being able to talk to them. I can communicate with your past lives, with other dimensions. I can talk to you in the previous lives. For 15 years, I've been able to cure other people for their PTSD, their depression, their anxiety, and whatever they're struggling with, because I helped myself. Today, I can clear all my clients, the ones who are ready, not the ones who still want to be a victim. and make other people wrong. But the high frequency people out there, it might be, that might be you who's ready to step up and release yourself from the past pain. You who are already out there serving other people as a coach and a therapist and a healer and transformational worker. You are my favorite clientele. You who know you've not yet released the traumas of your life because you keep going back. And I know that we do that because our amygdala brain and our reptile brain will always force us to do what we're used to doing. But let's get back to the PTSD. PTSD is not a disease. It's a system that has been overloaded. And when a system is overloaded, we are constantly on alert. We have low tolerance. We hear too much. We feel too much. We don't have a filter. Everything goes right in there because our aura has been broken down. We're angry. We're toxic. We can't remember. I'm cured today, so don't you worry. But I still know how it was. I hated life. I hated other people. I hated everything because I hated being me. So how did I cure myself? I can't say to you that you should leave your family and isolate yourself because that's not the solution when you have created and chosen a life like that. But like I said to an army a soldier a while ago, you can't be healed in the environment that your wife has created on her terms, where you're always up in this high alert state with children shouting and noise and lots of demands for you. So I told him, you can't be cured for your PTSD and depression in an environment like that, which is so rough and challenging for you, even almost at the same level as being in the army. And he understood. And I said, you have to start demanding more structure and discipline and peace in your own home, because we need to regenerate and degenerate. So we have these two nervous systems. We have the parasympathetic nervous system, is where we do something, we achieve something, we read something, we study something, we want to go somewhere, we have goals. So it's the very masculine sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetical nervous system is the doing and spending energy. And then there's the opposite. That's the feminine one. That's the parasympathetical nervous system, or parasympathetic. I'm Danish, so I can't even translate it. I'm so sorry. That's where we generate energy. Up here, we spend energy. Down here, we sleep, we relax, we sit and watch the birds, we drink a sip of ceremonial cocoa. We're taking good care of ourselves. We don't have a purpose. We're not on the way the whole time. So what kind of environment have you created for yourself? Can you feel calm and safe in it? What kind of life are you living? The coronavirus helped us and was there to remind us to step back from the life we've lived so far and start living a life on our own terms. I would rather earn less and have my freedom, which is what I do today. It has had gigantic costs. That's another story. Because the first 10 years of me having a business, I had PTSD. And luckily, I was able to heal myself. So even though I had PTSD, I took clients because I would say to my clients, I have to calm myself down. And if I'm unstable tomorrow, I won't have you as a client. And everyone has respected that. I was very, very good at what I did. But personally, I wasn't happy. I wasn't thriving. I didn't have a life of my own. I said goodbye to my family in 2005. The spiritual journey is a journey for you. You're alone, and one for me. We can't join hands and say, let's go on this journey together. We can't. Because you have your journey, your pain, your patterns, your behavior, and I have mine. And it's so easy to get entangled and be codependent. So many people out there are codependent, even clients and their therapists. We are in the feminine decade, in the feminine era. We are not allowed to be codependent on anything, anyone, or everywhere. It's about creating a life on our own terms, where we do what we do because we like it, not just to survive. And I know that's sometimes hard. We have to make money. You have to take care and feed your children. I get that. But what kind of life have you created for yourself? Are you still a victim to your past, just as I have? Are you the toxic person sometimes or all the time? It's about facing the reality. This is August and September 2020. The year is already ended. Every September month of every September, it's a month of September in every year sums up the past 8 months. So when we get to October, we're being reset, and we are entering November, which is always a reflection of the upcoming year. It's easy to say, he did that, she did that, they do that, I don't like, that is why, he's a fart and she's a... It's easy to make other people wrong. It's hard to wake up and take responsibility. It's easy to be a victim to ourself and our old pain because our nervous system, the reward center, doesn't know how to differentiate between good pain or bad pain. So a woman who stays in a relationship where she's beaten up, well, we know the known, we do not know the unknown, so we would rather stay in the known that gives us some kind of tension and creates a lot of chemistry in our brain that we get addicted to. Then we would go into the unknown, not knowing where to end, not knowing if I will get the stimuli that the bad life is giving me. What do I want? The bad life, the pain, the struggle, being a victim, feeling sorry for myself, stealing energy from other people? So many people want to stay there, but we can't. We have to go into the unknown, embrace the unknown. We have to be willing to say, okay, what's this about? Why did that happen? Not as a victim, why did that happen to me? But what is it? We have to ask the right questions. What is it that I have to learn from this? Some people say autoimmune illnesses is permanently. No, it's not. It's a system that has been abused for not just 1 year or 2 years, but decades. I've had autoimmune illnesses, they're gone. I've had severe PTSD, it's gone. I've had 2 eating disorders, bulimia and orthorexia, they're gone. I've had arthritis, loads of allergies. In 2002, I started following Eat Right for Your Blood Type. Oh, what a difference it made. And especially the blood type A is the one that gets the cancer because they can't release the stress. So if you have a blood type A, be careful. As an O blood type, O negative, I have to be careful with what contains too much acid because we have so much stomach acid that we can eat the meat, we can eat the red meat, which A most definitely can't. In 2004, I stumbled upon Fit for Life. I don't mix carbs and proteins or fruit. I don't mix these 3, but I would put greens in all of them. In 2016, I was introduced to Anthony William, and I love it because that was the final piece that I missed, that I had to integrate and use because I love fruit and vegetables. There's a new way of being and doing and living we all have to learn. We all have to learn how to walk again, eat again, live again, talk again. And the more we resent that and pull away from it and make other people wrong, the more we're sailing up against the steam, is that the word? The more we're working against the law of attraction. What used to work doesn't work anymore. Babbling, being a victim, making other people wrong, being toxic, being in a survival state, identifying yourself with your anxiety instead of dealing with it. It doesn't work. You can't be in that. Nothing that has ever worked can and will ever work again. Everything has to change. We see it around the world. 2020 started off with the worst fires ever in Australia, and now there's horrible fires, forest fires out there in America. We had the COVID-19. It's going to keep coming until a certain amount of people have been pulled out of the old life. So as soon as you can change you and help you and your family, don't force anything upon anyone. Start yourself and show others the way. What I used to do was, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. And I learned how to shut the fuck up and just mind my own business. I learned how to be and look healthy and live healthy. And other people came and was like, how did you do that? How did you cure yourself for this? And how is your sensitivity not your biggest weakness? How did you cure yourself for that? And how did you help my friend with removing her anxiety? How are you capable, Shirley, people ask, of seeing my past life and connecting with my grandma, my grandpa, and those before them? Because I have unraveled and been in every little corner within my own darkness. I'm not afraid of the darkness. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of all the harsh emotions. Most of them are luckily released now. It's a rough time we're in, I know that. And if you want to be a part of the skeptical, fearful, closed, never-minded, masculine paradigm, go for it. Go for it. But it's not going to be easy. If you choose the feminine part, and be a part of the feminine paradigm, where it's about contribution, helping, finding problems, caring, inclusion instead of exclusion. If you're choosing to be on the feminine path, in the feminine paradigm, living in that awareness and consciousness, life is going to help you out. Sometimes when I feel like the worst and don't feel like life is fun, I say to myself, I'm going to take my head out of my ass and remind myself, it's not about me. It's not about me, it's about all of us. So what I do for me, I can go out and teach other people. I want to be a mom quite late in life. People have an opinion about it. I don't care, it's my life. I think it's amazing the world that's awakening this year. Not even that we had the bad fires in January. There was this horrible explosion in Beirut. There has been the COVID. There's the fires in America. But look at all the good stuff. I can't say the word right, but the LGBT is blossoming. The transgendered, even the black transgender women are getting a voice. With all these American television shows, Pose, to just mention one of them. Black Lives Matter comes with both pain, but also freedom. It has to be bad before it gets better. And it's up to you right now to choose which paradigm you're going to be in. Feeling scared and small and insecure and being a victim, pulling away, being more of a burden than you already are to yourself and others. Are you going to be skeptical make everyone wrong, repel against the system, and be even toxic? Are you going to be in the middle, doing the best you can to be grateful, hopeful, positive, supporting, knowing that here in the middle, you're going to make a difference? You don't know how yet, but just know the bigger difference you're going to make for yourself, healing and strengthening yourself. When you do that and have that as your purpose, what is your future purpose will come towards you. If you're not doing anything, nothing's going to happen. What you push against will push against you. So standing here in the middle, knowing there is a big purpose out there for you, how to serve and help other people's, but you have to lift yourself up above a certain frequency into a newer, higher state of being and doing and feeling. And then your future life purpose will show itself. I did not know 15 years ago that I would be a gigantic healer, able to permanently release you from your past life, karma, lessons, and ancestral karma. I can. I did not know 15 years ago that I would be honored, would have the honor of helping people get clarity when it comes to the ones of their past, as a descendants, the one that has passed away. I did not know I was going to be a medium. I did not know I was going to be a shaman to help other shamans unfold their abilities. I did not know that at that time that I had been sexually abused, which I figured out in 2007, and therefore today I can help other women help them recover and be freed from their sexual abuse. I can help other people become PTSD free, depression free. We're in an era where life demands more of us than ever, but not like the masculine paradigm expected from us, that we participate in our community, that we make a lot of money, and we make this business a lot of money. The old paradigm has had its era. The old paradigm, the old way of living and being and doing is outdated long ago, 2 decades ago. I talked about it yesterday to the members of my club VIP for Heart Warriors. In 1999, everything changed around the world. We entered a new decade, 2000. And since 2000, December 1999, there's gone 20 years. Oh boy, there has been no sleeping for many of us. The world has to wake up. We have to change from within. Everything out here is going to change when you and I change. So we can't make your children wrong and project your mother-daughter wounds onto your daughters and thereby scarring your daughters for life. You can't do what was done to you in your childhood to others. It has to stop now. Life, the universe, the cosmic, those up there, they want us to wake up and take responsibility. Oh, my mom did that. Yeah, but it happened back then. Fix it here and now. What can you do? It will not help. It won't help when you're making your mom wrong, your dad wrong, your sister wrong, because everyone are the way that they are. The only thing that can change is you and me. I'm tolerant today. I can relate to and understand people. I know where they're coming from. And you have that ability too, I know that. But you can't be patient and tolerant with other people if you can't be it with yourself at your worst. The biggest lesson is to handle yourself when you're at your worst, so you can handle and heal and be supportive of your kids when they're at their worst. I know so many moms who are powerless when their kids are at their worst because they don't know how to deal with themselves when they're at their worst. And that's why I've created this online community to help with these online seminars, these women to stand up for themselves. I'm very good at babbling. And this video was just going to be about PTSD it didn't turn out that way. But I hope you learned a little bit, if not at least my story. And I would love to hear for you to leave a comment and say hello. You might even ask me a question if it comes from your heart. This video wasn't created with any bad intentions, because I know we're all doing the best that we can with what we have, and so did our parents. And I know so many women out there are like, my mom did the best she could. Yeah, but your mom was an ass to you. And it's okay to repel against it and say, Mom, you are an ass, and that's not okay. And once you've done that, you can start all over, and it will be better than it was before, because that's where the era of truth, honesty, sincerity, empathy. So center yourself in your heart and always ask yourself, what would my heart do? What does my heart need? Where do you, my heart, want to lead me today? Thank you so much for listening. Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to talk anymore. Thank you for dropping by.